I woke before sunrise, not because I wanted to, but because something felt wrong, heavy, like the air itself was warning me. The compound was still quiet, the kind of quiet that feels tense, like it's holding its breath. I stepped outside to pick up the morning paper from the gate, but instead, something else caught my eye: a slim brown envelope, placed neatly on top of the mat. No name, no stamp, no handwriting, as if someone had walked right up to the gate before dawn and left it there on purpose. A strange chill traveled down my spine. I picked it up slowly, turning it over in my hands. It was light to light. I opened it cautiously. Inside was a single black and white photograph. At first, my mind refused to process it, but when I looked again, my stomach twisted. It was a picture of me, standing outside my workplace 2 days earlier. My own face, captured from a distance. The angle was sharp, deliberate. Someone had been watching me. Beneath the photo was a small note, typed, not handwritten. 4 words only. "We know what you did." My hands turned cold. The kind of cold that doesn't come from the weather. What could I have possibly done? I tried to swallow, but my throat felt dry. I looked around the compounded. No movement, no shadows, no one hiding behind the bougainvillea bushes. But the uneasy feeling wouldn't leave. Someone had been close enough to drop the envelope without being seen. I went back inside, shutting the door a little too quickly. My mind raced. Who would send such a thing? Was this a prank? A threat? A mistake? I kept flipping the photo over, as if the back would magically reveal answers. But it was blank, smooth, clean, intentionally empty. And then my phone rang. My sister's name flashed across the screen. I stared at it for a moment before picking up. "Hello." She didn't greet me. Her voice was sharp, businesslike, almost rehearsed. "Come to the family house. Now there's something we need to discuss." My heart thudded harder. "What happened?" "You know very well what happened," she snapped. "Don't pretend." "I don't understand." "You will," she said, her tone dripping with accusation. "Everyone is waiting." The call ended before I could ask anything else. I sank into the sofa, the envelope still in my hand. First, the photo. Now this. A cold realization crept through me. These 2 things were connected. They had to be. My sister wasn't the type to call an emergency meeting without drama attached. But this felt bigger than her usual theatrics. Much bigger. Something was wrong, and she wanted me to walk right into it. I stood up, heart pounding, grabbed my keys, and headed for the door. But before stepping out, I took one last look at the envelope lying on the table. The message echoed in my mind. "We know what you did." Except I had done nothing. Which meant someone else was trying very hard to make it look like I had. The drive to the family house felt longer than usual, even though I knew every turn, every bump, every street vendor who set up early in the morning. My fingers tightened around the steering wheel as I replayed my sister's voice in my head, sharp, confident, full of something that sounded like certainty. She spoke as if she already had a verdict prepared, and I was simply being summoned to hear it. When I reached the gate, I noticed the compound was unusually full. Cars lined up like there was a ceremony happening. My chest tightened. This wasn't a casual discussion, this was a gathering, a planned ambush. I stepped out of the car and could already feel several eyes on me. My aunt whispered something to my uncle as I walked past them. My cousin avoided my gaze completely. Even the house help looked uneasy. Inside the living room, my entire family sat in a semicircle, as if they were holding court. My mother's face was pale, my father's jaw tense, and right in the center, sitting upright like she was the queen of Judgment Day, was my sister, Sarah. She didn't smile. She didn't greet me. She just stared at me with the cold confidence of someone convinced they had won. "Sit," she ordered. I remained standing for a moment, scanning the room. "Why is everyone gathered like this?" My father's voice came low, tired. "Your sister has something to tell us." "We all do." I sat slowly, trying to calm the rapid beating in my chest. Sarah leaned forward, placing a small folder on the table with theatrical precision. "I contacted professionals," she began. "Private investigators." A wave of murmurs rose around the room. My mother covered her mouth, devastated. My heart stuttered. So the envelope and the photo weren't random. Everything was connected just as I feared. Sarah continued, her voice cold but triumphant. "For months, I've suspected you've been lying about your financial situation. Your statements don't match your lifestyle. You've been hiding something, using family money without permission, and pretending you're innocent." My mouth fell open. "What? That's not true." She cut me off with a raised hand. "Save it. You've lied enough." I felt heat rise in my face. "Sarah, what are you talking about? I haven't taken anything." "Oh really? She smirked and tapped the folder. Because the investigators have been tracking you, following you, checking your accounts, watching your movements, and they've found things that don't add up. A sick feeling crawled through my stomach. So the surveillance wasn't imagined. They really had been watching me. I forced myself to remain calm, then show the evidence. That threw her off for a second. She blinked, surprised I wasn't panicking. You'll get the full report soon, she said, regaining her smugness. But for now, you need to know this. We're done pretending everything is fine. You've been stealing from us, and now we have proof. The room buzzed with gasps. My throat tightened, my chest burned. But I held my ground. I have never stolen a single thing, I said steadily. Sarah's eyes hardened. Then explain why the investigators are convinced you're hiding something. I wanted to laugh at the insanity of it. Maybe because someone hired them with the wrong intentions. Her face twitched just for a moment. A crack. Small, but visible. But before I could speak further, my mother burst into tears. Why are you both trying to destroy this family? I swallowed my anger and looked at Sarah. Whatever you think you know, I said quietly, you're wrong. She leaned back, a cruel smile spreading across her face. We'll see. The room felt heavier after my sister's accusation, like the walls themselves were absorbing the tension. Every pair of eyes in that living room kept drifting between me and Sarah, as though they were watching a slow-motion car crash and waiting to see who walked away from the wreckage. I tried to steady my breathing, but my pulse was thundering so loudly. I could almost hear it in my ears. My dad finally spoke after what felt like minutes of painful silence. We just want the truth, he said quietly. If there's something happening, it's better to tell us now. There's nothing to tell, I replied firmly. I haven't lied about anything. But doubt was already creeping into their faces. Doubt planted by my sister's confidence. Her tone, her dramatic presentation. She knew how to act, how to manipulate feelings, how to turn a room against someone without raising her voice. She'd always had that power, especially over my parents. Sarah uncrossed her legs and stood up slowly, walking closer to me. You always pretend to be innocent, she said under her breath, loud enough for everyone to hear. But the truth is finally catching up to you. Her words settled into the room like dust, irritating and suffocating. I swallowed hard. Why are you doing this? Her lips curled. For the family. For the family, I repeated, shocked. Or for yourself. A flash of anger flickered in her eyes, but she quickly masked it. My mother reached out and touched Sarah's arm, as if she were the victim. Please, both of you, stop, she pleaded. This bitterness will destroy all of us. But Sarah pulled her arm away gently, then looked directly at me with that familiar superiority she had worn since childhood. You've been living above your means. You owe people money you never told us about. You've been lying about your expenses. The investigators told me everything. My head snapped up. Investigators? You mean the same ones who sent me a picture at dawn with a threatening message? The family gasped again. What picture? My father demanded. I reached into my pocket and handed it to him. He examined it, his eyebrows knotting together as he read the message. We know what you did. The room fell into a stunned silence. Even Sarah's expression faltered for a moment, as though she didn't expect I would reveal that part. My father turned to her. Did you send this? She shook her head quickly. No. They must have done it on their own. Investigators do things like that to pressure people. That's intimidation, I said sharply. And you think it's normal? But Sarah didn't flinch. If you were innocent, you wouldn't be scared. I stared at her in disbelief. I'm not scared because I'm guilty. I'm scared because you've gone too far this time. The tension snapped like a wire. My aunt stood up abruptly. Enough. We need the investigators here. We need to hear from them directly. My father nodded slowly. Yes, let them come. Let them show us this so-called evidence. Sarah hesitated, but only for a second. Fine, they'll bring the full report soon. Then we'll all know exactly who the liar is. Her confidence bothered me. It wasn't the confidence of someone who had found the truth. It was the confidence of someone desperately holding onto control. As I sat there, surrounded by relatives whispering and stealing glances at me, a quiet, chilling thought slid into my mind. What if Sarah wasn't just accusing me? What if she was hiding something so big that she needed someone else, me, to take the fall for it? I left the living room for a moment just to breathe. The air inside had become too thick with suspicion, too sharp with unspoken accusations. Standing near the veranda, I tried to clear my head, but every thought returned to the same point. My sister's confidence wasn't normal. It felt rehearsed, calculated, as if she wasn't just expecting the investigators to expose something about me, but depending on it, Behind me, I heard footsteps. It was my cousin Malik. He spoke quietly. Are you okay? No, I answered honestly. None of this makes sense. He glanced back toward the living room. Your sister looks too sure, like she already knows the outcome. That's exactly what scares me, I muttered, before he could respond. The gate outside creaked open. Two unfamiliar men walked in dark suits, emotionless faces, carrying black files under their arms. They moved with the confidence of people used to secrets. The investigators. Everyone rushed back into the living room, tension rising again like smoke in a small room. The two men introduced themselves, shaking hands politely. Though their eyes were cold and assessing, Sarah stood beside them like she was part of their team. These are the professionals, she said proudly. They've gathered everything. My father gestured for them to sit. We need to understand what's happening. The lead investigator, a tall man with a trimmed beard, opened his file. We were hired to verify financial inconsistencies, he began, and to monitor certain activities. His eyes flicked toward me. I refused to look away. Sarah leaned forward eagerly. Please, go ahead. He nodded and continued. For the past several weeks, we have followed the subject, checked background records, visited locations, and reviewed digital trails. It should have been terrifying to hear. Someone had dissected my life without my knowledge. But strangely, the fear inside me quieted, because I knew they wouldn't find anything not on me. The second investigator cleared his throat. However, he added, during the course of our work, we encountered some irregularities that did not match the behavior of the subject. My heart thumped. The room shifted. Even Sarah stiffened slightly. What irregularities? My father asked. The investigators exchanged a subtle glance before the tall one spoke again. Certain transactions and movements did not originate from the subject but were linked to someone close. Sarah's fingers tightened around her chair. The investigator continued. We expanded the scope unofficially because some patterns were suspicious. Suspicious how? My mother whispered. Unexplained withdrawals, duplicate signatures, hidden accounts opened using a family-related name, property inquiries done under someone else's identity. A chill crawled up my spine. Sarah looked frozen, her confident mask cracking at the edges. And you're saying all this points to my son? My father asked harshly. The tall investigator slowly shook his head. No, the evidence does not point to him. Every sound in the room died. Someone's breath caught. Even the wall clock seemed to pause. My father leaned forward. Then who does it point to? The investigator placed one clear, glossy photograph on the table taken secretly. Just like mine, it was my sister. Standing outside a bank, signing documents, meeting someone suspicious, looking over her shoulder. Sarah's face went pale. The lead investigator's voice was calm, but firm. The irregularities point to her. My sister inhaled sharply, as if someone had punched all the air out of her. The storm had finally changed direction. For a moment, nobody moved. The photograph lay on the table like a bomb that had just detonated, but the shock waves were still traveling through the room. My mother's trembling hand covered her mouth. My father's posture stiffened, and the relatives silently leaned in, hungry for clarity, terrified of what that clarity meant. Sarah didn't blink. She looked at the photo as if it belonged to someone else, as if this moment wasn't real. Then her eyes darted to the investigators, then to me, sharp, defensive, wild. What is this supposed to mean? She demanded, her voice shaking but still clinging to control. The investigator remained calm. It means the transactions you accused your brother of making did not originate from him. No, she snapped. This isn't proof. You took a picture of me outside a bank and now you're twisting it. The tall investigator opened the folder again. We wouldn't present it if it was just a picture. He slid out another document. This is a receipt from a cash withdrawal done under the name S. Kamal. Your brother's initials, but the signature is not his. My father squinted at the paper. This doesn't look like his handwriting. The investigator nodded. Exactly, but we matched it with signatures from several loan offices you visited. He slid out more papers, folding back the edges so the family could see. These signatures match each other and they match yours. The room erupted with murmurs, gasps, whispers of disbelief. Sarah's chest rose and fell rapidly. That's a lie, she shouted, rising to her feet. I never forged anything. This is some kind of mistake. But even her voice had changed. It wasn't confident anymore. It was desperate, cracking at the seams. I watched her quietly, my heart heavy. I wasn't angry anymore, just tired, because now the truth was clawing its way out, piece by piece. The second investigator spoke up. We also traced inquiries made to sell the family's farmland. They were done under an alias K. Sani. But the phone number linked back to you. He placed a printed call log on the table. This is your number. Sarah's knees buckled for a second, and she grabbed the back of the couch to steady herself. My mother burst into tears. Sarah, why? She whispered. Sarah shook her head violently. I didn't do anything wrong. They're framing me. They're lying to all of you. But nobody looked convinced anymore. My father turned to the investigators, his voice rough. Are you certain about all this? The tall investigator didn't hesitate. We follow evidence, sir, and all of it leads to her. Sarah let out a sharp, bitter laugh. So this is it. You all believe strangers over your own blood. Her eyes darted around the room, looking for loyalty, but finding none. You think I would do something like this? Me. My father's voice was quiet but firm. Then explain the documents. She froze, her lips parted, but no words came out. And in that silence, something broke, not just her confidence, but the facade she had built for years. A hidden truth had been dragged into the light, and she could no longer hide behind her accusations. Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance, as if the sky itself was reacting. The storm had arrived, and this time, it wasn't over my head. The thunder outside grew louder, echoing through the walls as if it was judging everything happening inside the house. Sarah sank slowly back into her seat, her face pale, her eyes darting everywhere except toward the evidence spread across the table. Her breathing was uneven, quick inhales, shaky exhales. For the first time since this drama began, she looked genuinely cornered. My mother approached her hesitantly. Sarah, tell us the truth, please. But Sarah remained silent, staring down at her hands as though they belonged to someone else. The tall investigator cleared his throat softly, pulling out one more document. There's something else, he said. During the investigation, we found proof that several of the loans applied under the forged signature were used to clear debts connected to a private business account. My father's eyes narrowed. Business account? Which business? The investigator slid the paper forward. Registered under her name, but illegally linked to your family identity number. A collective gasp filled the room. My aunt almost dropped her handbag from shock. I felt my heart twist. So this wasn't a small mistake. It wasn't a misunderstanding. This was deliberate, planned. My father's voice trembled with restrained fury. Sarah, you used our family name for loans without telling us. Sarah's jaw clenched. I did what I had to do, she muttered. My mother flinched. What you had to do? By dragging your brother into it, by letting us think he was stealing, by hiring strangers to spy on him? Sarah shot me a burning glare. He's always been the favorite, always the perfect one. Nobody ever questions him. I wanted the truth to balance for once. I stared at her, stunned. You tried to frame me because of jealousy. It's not jealousy, she snapped. It's reality. Everything always goes your way. You get opportunities handed to you. Dad listens to you. Mom trusts you blindly. Her voice cracked, angry and emotional. I had to build everything myself. Alone. And this is how you build? I asked quietly. By destroying your own family. Her face twisted. Half guilt, half defiance. I didn't want it to get this far, she whispered. I thought, if the investigators dug enough, they'd find something, some mistake you made, something I could expose. Then they'd finally see I wasn't lying. But you were, my father said sharply. She looked down, unable to argue. The second investigator spoke gently but firmly. We didn't intend to expose her. We were simply following the trail, and the trail kept leading back to her activities, not his. The room fell into a deep, painful silence. My mother wiped her tears. Sarah, we trusted you. We trusted you more than he trusted himself. And this is what you were hiding. Her shoulders trembled. She tried to speak, but the words tangled in her throat. My father stood up slowly, his voice heavy. You hired investigators to catch your brother in a lie, but instead, you exposed the truth about yourself. Sarah squeezed her eyes shut as if hoping the moment would disappear. But it wouldn't. The truth was already out, spreading through the room like wildfire. My cousin Malik whispered under his breath, be careful, the trap you set for others, because sometimes you fall into it first. Sarah's eyes finally lifted, furious, defeated, meeting mine for the first time. She whispered, almost broken, this wasn't supposed to happen, but it had, and there was no turning back. The silence that followed Sarah's last words was suffocating. It pressed down on all of us, thick and heavy, like a blanket soaked in cold water. No one moved. No one breathed too loudly. My sister sat slumped. but there was still a stubborn steeliness in her eyes as if she was searching for one last lie strong enough to save her. My father finally broke the silence. "We need to talk about consequences," he said quietly, though his voice carried the weight of thunder. "This is not something we can sweep under the carpet." Sarah's head jerked up. "Consequences? Consequences?" she repeated, shocked. "I'm your daughter. And he is our son," my father replied sharply. "The one you tried to ruin." Her lips parted, but no defense came out. My mother stepped forward, tears streaming. "How could you do this? How could you look us in the eye while planning to destroy your own brother?" Sarah wiped her face with the back of her hand, shaking. "I didn't want to destroy him. I needed to protect myself." "From what?" I asked quietly. "From the truth." Her gaze snapped toward me, full of hurt and bitterness. "You don't understand. You've never struggled like I have. My business was collapsing, and I had no one to help. I was drowning in debt. Every day felt like I was sinking further. I thought, if I could cover it up for a little while, I'd fix everything before anyone found out. So you forged my signature, used the family ID, tried to sell land that belongs to all of us?" I asked, my voice steady though anger simmered underneath. She looked away. "I didn't have a choice." "You always had a choice," my mother whispered. "You just chose the wrong path." My aunt suddenly stood up, her hands trembling. "Do you know people go to jail for what you've done?" Sarah's breath hitched. "I'm not going to jail." "That depends," my father said sternly. "This is fraud. This is identity misuse. This is betrayal." Her composure shattered. She fell to her knees suddenly, grabbing our father's hands. "Please, Daddy, please don't hand me over. I'm begging you. I didn't mean to hurt anyone." My father pulled his hands back, his face dark with pain. "Begging now doesn't erase what you did." My mother knelt beside her, torn between love and heartbreak. "Why didn't you come to us? Why didn't you trust us enough to tell the truth?" Sarah shook with silent sobs. Because I knew you would help him," she said, looking at me as if I were the root of all her failures. "You always help him." "Never, me." Her words stabbed the air like knives. I knelt down too, slowly, keeping my distance. "Sarah, I would have helped you. We all would have. You didn't have to lie. You didn't have to betray anyone." She looked up, eyes red, full of regret and disbelief. "I didn't think you would. I thought if I exposed you first, everyone would finally see me." My chest tightened. "So you wanted validation? Even if it meant destroying me?" Her silence was the answer. The investigators stood respectfully near the door, waiting. "If you want us to proceed legally," the tall one said gently, "we will." My father closed his eyes, fighting tears of his own. "Give us a moment." The investigators stepped out. Sarah collapsed into sobs, her forehead touching the floor. I watched her, torn between pity and disappointment. The sister I thought I knew didn't exist. Or maybe she had been hiding behind broken pieces for years. Either way, the truth was out, and the family would never be the same. The sound of Sarah's sobs filled the room long after the investigators stepped outside. Nobody rushed to comfort her this time, not because they didn't love her, but because the wound she created was too fresh, too deep, too raw. My mother paced the room, torn between her instinct to protect her child and her shock at the betrayal. My father stood still, staring at the evidence on the table as if trying to understand how everything had gone so wrong under his own roof. I remained seated, watching the collapse of everything I once believed about my sister. I didn't feel triumphant. There was no satisfaction, only a heavy sadness, the kind that settles into your bones. After several minutes, my father finally spoke. "Stand up," he said quietly. Sarah wiped her face, trembling, and slowly obeyed. She looked younger, smaller, like all her pride had drained out of her. My father continued, "We will not throw you to the police. Not today. Not yet." My mother exhaled in relief, her knees losing strength. "But," he added firmly, "you will take responsibility." The relief in her eyes froze. "You will meet with the investigators again. You will tell them the truth, every detail. No more lies." His voice hardened. "And you will repair what you broke. Every loan, every document, every signature." Sarah's lips quivered. "But I don't know if I can fix all of it." "Then you will start," he said, "one step at a time. But you will not drag your brother down with you ever again." Her eyes met mine, full of shame she could no longer hide. "I'm sorry," she whispered, and the words cracked in the middle like they were too painful to speak. I nodded slowly. "Sorry doesn't erase what happened," I said gently. "But it's a beginning." She lowered her gaze again. My mother approached her and finally pulled her into a tight embrace. her tears soaking into Sarah's shoulder. "We'll help you, but only if you stop lying," she whispered. "This family will not survive more secrets." Sarah broke into fresh tears. Clinging to our mother like a drowning person grabbing a rope, my father stepped outside to call the investigators back, and when they returned, he explained the decision. "No legal action for now, but you will work with us to correct everything." The investigators nodded, relieved. They were professionals, but they were also human. "We'll assist," the tall one said, "but transparency is the only way forward." Sarah agreed quietly. Everything seemed to settle then, not peacefully, but heavily, the way dust settles after a storm, as the investigators left, and the family dispersed to breathe in separate corners of the compound. I stepped outside into the open air. The clouds were still heavy, but the rain hadn't fallen yet. The wind smelled like the beginning of something new, or the end of something old. Malik joined me. "You okay?" he asked softly. I nodded. "I guess." He glanced back toward the house. "It's crazy, isn't it? She hired people to dig up dirt on you, and ended up exposing herself." I released a slow breath. "When you dig a grave for someone," I murmured, "you'd better not stand too close to the edge." He smiled sadly. True words. As I walked toward my car, I glanced back at the house one last time. The lights glowed through the windows, soft and fragile, a family broken but not beyond repair, and deep inside, I knew this chapter wasn't the end of the story. It was just the truth finally stepping into the light.